5 Lincoln 103, 5 Lincoln 102, Lincoln 103 and 102.
Responding to 401 parking structure, section 1 boy.
Henry 8, Henry 9. Respond to gate 437 Bravo for your dignitary detail. 3K 911 unattended 400 lower level near carousel 4 black bag. GTA in progress 401 parking structure section 4 boy.
Responding to 401 parking structure, section 1 boy.
415 passenger onboard aircraft.
Control 2 Franklin en route.
484 suspect is female, Hispanic, 28 years of age, blue jeans, no further.
Control 5 Frank 401 is en route.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio. We want to welcome you to this show here, broadcasting live from our studios in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we have a lot to talk about today, a lot of information that we want to share. Of course, always a lot of news that we need to get out to you. Unfortunately, there's been a number of on-duty security officer deaths. And we do see those increase this time of year, unfortunately. But we have a lot of other news to share with you as well. And we've got a couple of brand new services that will be kicking off here in the next 60 days. One that will start early next month, and then one later in July or August. So we've got a lot of stuff happening. We're always busy here at Private Officer International and at our sister company, Armor College. So we want to thank you for joining us and thank you for being a supporter of our business. Also, as a supporter of our business, one that we like to recognize each week is a great company who has some of the most top quality body armor wear and clothing, protective clothing that you can find. I'm talking about anyone. Look them up today, bodyarmorusa.com. Give them a call. Give my friends over there a call. They will do you right. They've definitely got your back. And as a member of Private Officer International, you're also going to receive a discount at least 10%. Be sure to look them up today before you do buy any body armor or protective wear, because they're going to be able to help you out. And with their top quality merchandise and protective wear, it's going to help you. It's going to make sure that you go home to your family safely every day. And they're just a good group over there to work with. So Body Armor USA today, we've got what it takes to protect you. All right, today we have a lot to bring forth to you today. We're very excited. But you know what? Before we do all of that, I have to say this week, in our area at least, we're going to see temperatures in the high 90s, 96 degrees several days. Unbelievable. It wasn't just maybe a few weeks ago. It was feeling more like fall or spring than anything like summer. So this year, obviously, we've gone from winter right into summer with only a few weeks of spring, if we can even call it a few weeks. But it's going to be very, very warm. And with that being said, every year we remind you, no matter if it's March and the temperature's 85 or 90, or if it's the middle of July and you're seeing temperatures hit that 90 to 100 mark, make sure that when you are working, that you take care of yourself. Make sure that you get not only plenty of rest and eat right, but that you are staying out of all of that heat as much as possible, that you're getting under the shade when necessary to cool off, to cool down, and that you are hydrating. Make sure, I've always, when on duty, on patrol, had a cooler with me, bring that cold water, Stay away from the alcohol, of course, but bring that cold water and get a lot of hydration going to keep you cooled off and cooled down. You know, in the summertime and even later on in the year, it is very easy for you to get heat exhaustion and even heat stroke, which is a life-threatening situation. You can die from heat stroke as your body begins to overheat and goes into shock, and it's nothing to fool with, trust me. So we oftentimes, with our business, when we're on patrol, we often make sure that everybody's got a lot of cold water with them. Even when I had a regional security company with offices in multiple states, that was one of the things that we had our branch manager and field supervisors out doing every single year. We made sure that they had coolers of cold water, that people were getting, those out on traffic control, those working out on walking beats, physical patrol, they were getting their rest, they were getting their hydration, they were getting rest periods, because we don't want to see anyone fall ill, especially when it's something that can be stopped before it happens. It's preventable, folks, so be sure that you're on top of that. Even in temperatures of 75 to 80, you can get heat exhaustion. All right, well, we're just full of information and news today, but we really are concerned for our members, our listeners, and we want to make sure that everyone is taking care of themselves. As stated just moments ago, unfortunately, the month of May has not been kind to the private security industry. I believe we have like 10 or 11 security officers killed in the line of duty this month, and about 40 or 39 so far this year. It looks like it's going to be one of those, unfortunately, years when we're going to see 100-plus security officers killed on duty. Now, sadly, a security officer, 76 years old, who had a crash in a golf cart in Honolulu, Hawaii. It was reported late last night that he did pass away, and our condolences going out to his family and friends, co-workers. We've also had a security officer that was murdered in California. He was found shot to death in the parking lot of a Home Depot, but now police say the crime scene was actually an apartment complex a few blocks away where he was shot and killed. We also had a security officer who worked for Allied Universal crash his vehicle and flip it at JFK Airport. He also died from very traumatic injuries. Another security officer involved in a car accident. This one was in California, Sacramento, where the security officer, during a rainstorm, thunderstorm, lost control and went into a river, and they recovered his body out. We have noticed in the last 3 or 4 years that security officer deaths by vehicle accidents is rising. And people ask, why is that? Because normally in the last 15 years that we've been tracking these numbers, we've seen security officer deaths by auto accidents only account for maybe 1 to 5 per year, and sometimes not even that. The reason why we are seeing the increase, we have many more companies now offering patrol services, many more companies using golf carts, bicycles, vehicles to patrol large areas. We have many companies who specialize in patrols. All they do is patrol accounts, industrial, commercial, residential. And so, like law enforcement, they are behind the wheel all the time. And like law enforcement, they're going to see that continued increase in vehicle accidents on duty. It's an unfortunate hazard of the job. I've got 2 good friends of mine who work for colleges, and they both drive golf carts sometimes. Other times they drive patrol vehicles, but whether you're driving a golf cart or a, patrol vehicle with four wheels and, AC and heat and comfy seats, whether you're driving a truck or a golf cart or a pickup, the more that you're behind the wheel, the more that you drive, the more likely that you are going to be involved in some type of crash, whether it's your fault or not. It could be someone else's. It's really just a hazard of the job that we're in. And now that we're getting more and more involved in patrol work and enforcement and being much more mobile and visible, we're going to see these things happening more frequently, unfortunately. So, yeah, it's been a bad month here in May so far, and the month is not over yet. And unfortunately, we'll probably see a couple of more officer deaths before the month's over. Speaking of officer deaths, we do want to recognize that this is Law Enforcement Memorial Week. Every year, we honor, we remember law enforcement officers killed across this nation. Last year, I believe it was 142 law enforcement officers, and they'll be lighting the candles there in Washington, D.C. A lot going on. I know officers from our agencies nearby bicycled to D.C. with a caravan. I wish I was younger. I wish I was slimmer, because I definitely want to do that. I wish I could. We are going to recognize our fallen officers the third week of September, just like we do annually every single year during the month of September. This is the 15th year that we will be recognizing, educating people, remembering the fallen private security personnel, private law enforcement that have died each year, about 100 plus. This year we'll be holding memorial services in a number of locations as we do annually. We'll also have a mobile patrol ride that we're going to do in a number of major cities. So we'll be asking you to provide your patrol cars and lights so that we can light it up. And that's what we're calling it, Light It Up Memorial Ride. We want to stand out, and we want the public and law enforcement and the media to take notice. And you'll be hearing more about that coming up in the next few weeks. We have a lot more information and news, and we have a great topic that we'll be talking about in today's program. Security officers becoming victims more often. And we're going to have all of that straight away, as our friends across the pond say, right after these quick, brief public service announcements. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio Show. I'm your host, Rick McCann, founder, CEO, and president of Private Officer International, Ann Arbor College. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
HirePatriots.com is a free website where you can help our active, reserve, veteran military and their families by letting them help you. Do you have a chore that needs doing around your home or yard? Is your company looking for a new hire? Then post your jobs for free at HirePatriots.com. Visit HirePatriots.com and post your jobs today. HirePatriots.com.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over. When you see lights,
Vest or reflectors.
please give us some room. Slow down and move over. When you need us,
We've got your back.
you have ours.
You got our back?
You got ours? You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
All right. Welcome back to this edition of the Private Officer Beat. I'm sure by now, it's been a couple of weeks, many, if not all of you, have heard of the Waffle House shooting in Nashville, Tennessee, where an armed, half-naked man entered a Waffle House off the interstate during the overnight hours and shot and killed several people and injured several others before he was confronted by a very brave man who was unarmed, by the way. He just took it upon himself to immediately confront the armed suspect, grabbed his AR-15 rifle away from him, and threw it across the counter, thereby ending the active shooter incident. Well, that suspect did get away. He was able to escape. Police had a 2-day manhunt for him, but we have audio now being released by the police department from a Nashville citizen, a young lady who was at lunch, who noticed the suspect, who matched the description of the active shooter that was wanted for the murders, and called 911. And after a few moments of difficulty trying to explain, where she was exactly, police were able to respond to the area, closed in, and soon after that, police made an arrest in the case. So we're going to share that audio with you, and when we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about how security officers are becoming more and more and more victims, just like law enforcement. Law enforcement are injured and assaulted so many more times than the media reports, and so too is it true about private security personnel. So we're going to have more about that here in a few minutes, but let's take a listen. Let's hear what this good Samaritan did, and we're going to play this audio, and then we'll be right back and talk a little bit more about getting involved and about officer safety.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
I'm standing in a construction site behind a diamond apartment on Mountain Springs Road. In between the school, there's a man that just walked through my job, dark pants, dark shirt, wearing a backpack. I just lost visual on it. Yes.
Repeat the location. Is there an address or an intersection there?
Well, I am on the TVA line side in the construction zone. He's right behind the elementary.
But is there an address or an intersection near where you are?
5000 Mountain Springs Road.
Okay, repeat the address to make sure I've got it right.
500 Mountain Springs Road. From a distance, it looks like this guy. He's got mud all over him.
Okay, you said it's a construction site for Diamond Apartments?
No, Diamond Apartments is where he lived. I'm right here behind it.
Where's you're calling from? And what's your name, ma'am?
Lydia, Lydia.
Okay, you said it's a male. Is he white, black, Hispanic, Asian?
He's a white male.
Okay.
Looks to be about maybe 5'10", 6 foot. He's wearing dark pants, a dark shirt, and a black backpack.
Okay.
He may be holding 6 foot. I don't know. I know he.
Shirt and what color pants?
Dark, like a black.
Okay, and a dark colored backpack?
Black, yes.
Okay, and tell me exactly what was happening.
He was just walking through the field real fast. When we noticed him, he walked all the way across our job back here in the back. And he's in behind the elementary school, headed towards the TVA lines in the woods.
Okay. I've got the call sent. Did you want to speak to an officer in person about that?
Well, I'd get somebody over here. This is right where he lived. It's that suspect y'all are looking for.
I've got the call sent, and we're going to get an officer out there. Like I said, I'm asking, did you want an officer to speak to you in person?
If he wants to, I'm right here on the construction road under the power lines, so, they'll have to see me.
Okay, I've got the information in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wasn't that great? We see citizens getting involved frequently. They just don't get their dues. They just don't get the media attention that they deserve. But thanks to this lady who spotted this suspicious person who looked like he could be the active shooter, police captured him a short time later. We often get involved. I often get involved. On duty, off duty, on the clock, off the clock. I've always been that way. It takes a village, they say, and so it's true. It takes a city, a county, a state, a country to protect each other. We have got to get involved. If you see it, report it, and don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid of being called a snitch or some other awful, terrible name. Just do the right thing, and it always works out. Security officer injuries and security officer deaths, we've talked about that for the past 15 years since we've started this group, this organization, this association. But, security officer injuries is going up. Often, like law enforcement, not reported, often ignored. The media only wants the juicy headlines of when something has gone wrong. When it looks like security or law enforcement has used excessive force, and most of the time they didn't. They only want those things that are now racial, to divide racially the citizens of our country. They're only looking for those headlines that will grab people's attention. They don't want to recognize the fact that police and security are out every day putting their life literally on the line, but even more than that, they're sacrificing their time away from their family, the holidays, birthdays, and other joyous celebrations that most families get to celebrate. Firefighters, paramedics, same thing for them. They're always working 24 on, 48 off, or 12 on, 12 off. They're always out on the job. So many times missing out on family events. The media, they're not going to recognize you for that. But we're going to cause them to recognize the fact that private protectors, security officers, private police officers, and others are holding the line every single day, 24/7. Now, we've mentioned this a time or two, maybe 22 times or more. There's 2 to 3 times more private security and private law enforcement in the country than all law enforcement combined. It's a fact. And with that, as more and more security officers are taking on an enforcement role, instead of just standing back, they're becoming more and more proactive because that's what it takes to protect the client. We're seeing more and more being injured, more and more being assaulted, stabbed, run down by their vehicles, being shot, left for dead. And many of our private security personnel are becoming victims. I can't tell you how many dozens of headlines we see, not every week, not every month, not every year, but every day. Literally, as we receive more than 2,500 news alerts in our office every single day, a big percentage now is becoming more and more about officers, security, private officers being injured in the line of duty. Something that really has gone unrecognized by the media, by the public, by employers. Let's be real about this. For many years, but the time has come to change that, to make sure that not only does this message, this headline get out, but that our private security personnel and law enforcement who are injured in the line of duty or killed in the line of duty not only get the respect that they deserve, but they get the help that they deserve. Today, our topic is about security officers becoming victims, but we want to empower you to be able to collect any monies that might be due to you, to be able to reach out to the right agencies, state, local, and federal, to be compensated for your injuries, to make sure that you have an attorney present if you have to go to court, whether to face charges yourself or because you have to face your attacker. We want to make sure that you are properly represented. So that's what this show is about. And we have a lot of resources to help you out. Go to our website, privateofficer.org. Send us an email, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. If you have any questions, if you've been injured, assaulted at work, we're here to be able to help you out. We have several big announcements that we're going to be talking about here in a few moments. And then we're going to be talking about the news that's breaking right now, as well as what's coming up in our training topic as we talk about security officers becoming victims.
Doing drugs is like being on top of the world. Everyone says so. Everyone seems to be having one dandy old time. Hey, it's part of growing up. Or is it? Just think about this. Before you go and do something you've never done before, you just better know what you're jumping into.
Well, as I said a few moments ago, we always have a lot of news happening here at the POI offices, and we're always pushing out news that you want to know, you want to read, information that you need. Be sure to sign up if you're not already on our email blast list. Be sure to sign up for our latest breaking news, newsletters, officer down reports, and training announcements. Go to our website at privateofficer.org or send us an email at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Well, in the news this week, a New York City Orthodox Security Patrol chief has been charged with raping a 16-year-old girl. These volunteer security patrols often are seen throughout a number of boroughs in New York City, but this time police say that Jacob Daskell is the man on the wrong side of the law. He is the security chief of one of the Jewish Orthodox security patrols, and now he's been charged with rape of a 16-year-old girl, although police are not releasing a whole lot about that situation. In Charlotte, North Carolina, a 18-year veteran of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police has been arrested and charged with 7 counts of shoplifting from a Harris Teeter grocery store. Police say Samuel Yervades is a police officer who has been on the job for many years, since 1999. They say that he stole on 7 different occasions from the Harris Teeter. Police in St. Louis, Missouri say a school security officer was forced to use pepper spray when more than 100 students began to fight. Police were called to the Clyde C. Miller Career Academy, where police and security had to disperse the group. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, police there say a man has been arrested for shooting video and photos while upskirting, shooting photos of women up their skirts. Police arrested Kevin Bean, 44, and charged him with several charges. Police in Albuquerque, New Mexico say that a security officer found shot over the weekend actually had left his post at a theater and broke in or attempted to break into an apartment where his ex-girlfriend lived, and evidently the new boyfriend shot the security officer. He has been arrested. The security officer has been arrested, and charged with a number of felonies, including burglary. He worked for Veteran Security out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Police are saying in Louisville, Kentucky, that a 18-year-old high school student assaulted and head-butted security and assaulted staff. Police say that they've arrested the 18-year-old girl and charged her with several counts of assault. Coming right out of New York City, we posted this video over the weekend on our Facebook page. Police there say that a loss prevention agent has been arrested for assaulting a shoplifter while he was trying to detain him. Now, the video, headline says that the shoplifter was choked by security workers. We don't see that in the video, and certainly he may have had some type of restraint on him. But this turned very violent. A lot of folks in the area got involved, a lot of passerbys and customers, and we will be following this and to see what happens. A pair of shoplifters at a Florida Publix have been arrested after their interaction with law enforcement turned violent. In Bellevue, Florida, police arrested Shelley Lynn Hunley for shoplifting and Anthony Charles Orozco, 21, for shoplifting, assaulting law enforcement, and resisting arrest. Metro Las Vegas police had to shoot a woman armed with a shovel who was chasing around her neighbors and trying to assault security. Police were called on the scene in the Big Sur Drive neighborhood, and they say that they encountered the woman armed with a shovel. After repeated attempts to get her to drop it, police fired. She is hospitalized currently. 2 women have been charged with murder, even though they never pulled the trigger. Police in Orlando, Florida, have now charged 2 shoplifters with murder, resisting police, and theft from a store there in the Colonial Plaza shopping center. Police were summoned, and when they arrived, they questioned the driver of a minivan. The driver of the minivan attempted to escape and hit one of the officers. They shot and killed him, but now his accomplices, the 2 women who was actually doing the shoplifting, have been charged with murder. And we see this in numerous cases. In many states, you can be charged with murder if your actions caused that shooting. A Louisiana security firm owner has filed a lawsuit against the Regulatory Commission, the Private Security Commission in Louisiana, after they say they wrongfully revoked his license. Police say that Nicholas A. Fetty and Delta Tactical Security has filed the lawsuit, and we're following this as well, and we'll let you know what happens. In Wareham, Massachusetts, a shoplifter who stole a large screen TV made a huge error when he accepted a ride as he attempted to escape the store from an unknown person who turned out to be an off-duty plainclothes police officer. Police say that they were called to Walmart for shoplifting in progress. The suspect fled right into the hands of the officer. Scott A. Mixon, 37, of New Bedford, Massachusetts, now faces felony charges. An off-duty Georgia police officer working church security in Forest Park, Georgia, heard a verbal altercation across the street at a restaurant and went to intercept and intervene. He wound up getting into an off-duty shooting. Police say that the person shot was armed and refused to drop the weapon. The person is hospitalized. Now the Georgia Bureau of Investigation is investigating. In Fort Worth, Texas, mall security at Hulen Mall had to put out 2 fires at the Sears and Dillard store after someone firebombed both locations. Police have just released photos of the suspect. You can check those out on our Facebook page. In East Brunswick, New Jersey, police there say that Hilton Hotel security alerted them to drug sales coming out of one of their rooms. Police set up an operation with security and arrested a suspect with $450,000 worth of raw marijuana, 13 pounds of it to be exact. Jonathan Reyes of Kendall Park, New Jersey, and Elisa Upgart of Brick, New Jersey, were taken into custody. That was good cooperation there between security and law enforcement. And last but not least, in Sacramento, police there say that a shoplifting suspect has died during a struggle with security at a Bel Air store. This is a part of a Rowley's grocery store there. Police say that the suspect struggled and evidently died of a heart attack. Police do not believe any charges will be filed against the loss prevention security agents because the man had assaulted them, and right now police are calling it justified. If you'd like to get more news right there in your own email box, just go to our website, privateofficer.org, and sign up today for all of the breaking news happening. We're going to be announcing the 2018 Officer Awards coming up here in 2 weeks. Be sure to be on the alert for that. And we're always, every year, we're always happy to award those individuals, men and women, on the front line of our private security and private police, public safety industry as they protect life and property. And it's just one way that we can recognize what they do every day. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got how officers are really becoming more and more the victim. We'll be right back after these brief messages.
Administration wants you to fly your drone responsibly. Avoid flying your drone near other aircraft, especially near airports. Fly your drone below 400 feet. Always keep your drone in sight. If you see a safety issue involving drones, contact local law enforcement immediately. Fly smart. Fly safe. Have fun.
Always breaking news here on Private Officer International. We have a lot of blogs, we have news radio, we have digital magazine, we have news alerts, we have a lot of different news products. So if you're interested in the news, just go to our website at privateofficer.com and sign up today. Today we're going to be talking here about being a victim and how many times security and law enforcement officers do fall victim, although that word victim has a stigma to it, and they just don't like using that word victim. But we do fall victim, and there are a number of statutory, state, and federal protections for victims, and we need to take advantage of that. We also need to understand what the law is and who it pertains to, as well as the rights. So coming up, we are going to be talking about that in the rest of our show. We're going to take one more quick PSA, and we're coming right back, and we're going to be talking about how private security and public law enforcement often becomes victims of crimes. Stay tuned.
You're on your way to meet up with friends, but you can't seem to get anywhere quickly. You don't want your friends to be annoyed, so you text. You're on your way. Five seconds is the average time your eyes are off the road while texting while driving. Make sure you get where you're going.
All right, victims of crimes. When you hear that phrase, when you hear those words, we often think about those victims who have been robbed, sexually assaulted, victims of home burglaries, assaults, murders, families of those who suffered violent attacks from criminals, from thugs, from people who took advantage of them. And there are many hundreds of thousands of victims across the country every single year. But when we hear that phrase, and when we think of those words, and when we hear that word victim, we don't often equate that to private or public officers becoming victims. But they do, and they are often victims. Now, every state that I'm aware of, most states, I'll say that, most states, have a Victims' Right Act which spells out the protections given to the victim. And more importantly, there's a federal act. It's called the Crime Victims' Rights Act. U.S. Code that is very important, 18 U.S. 377. You need to check this out. Look it up, the Crime Victims' Rights. And basically, it says that you have a number of rights as a victim. Security officers are attacked and assaulted more than 100,000 times a year. Law enforcement, more than 200,000 times a year. A person assaulted, especially one who's been injured in any way, is a victim. An officer who has sustained injuries on or off duty in the performance of their duties is a victim. Even when that public or private officer is the initiator of the force, as long as the officer was doing it in the performance of their job, of their duty, and within the law of the land. So, for instance, if you were trying to stop a shoplifter and you're a loss prevention agent, and that person resists, and you have a legal, lawful right under the law to detain that person, and they punch you, they assault you, they injure you, even though you initiated some level of force to stop and detain the shoplifter, you legally are a victim of crime. Once they resist, once they assault you, once they injure you, you, not them, you are the victim because they received their injuries in the commission of a crime. That's right. The federal law and state law has certain stipulations of when you're not a victim. You're not a victim when you cause the injury to yourself. You drive drunk down the road and crash into somebody and get hurt. You're not a victim. You perpetrate a crime and are hurt during that crime. You're not a victim. But on the flip side of that coin, an officer, private or public, doing their job and the performance of their duties initiates some level of force against the suspect or to defend themselves against imminent danger of any level. If that officer, private or public, gets injured, then they are a victim. They are a victim. And they are protected by state and federal laws. And it's time that we stand up and take advantage of our rights. There's a bad stigma across the country of officers who don't want to be recognized as a victim. Hey, we're men. We're manly men. And we don't want to be the victim. Especially when we're wearing a uniform, especially when we're thought of as the protector, especially when we're the guy who you've called, we're not going to be the victim. But sometimes we are. And in order to be recognized, in order for us to receive all of the same rights, benefits, guarantees, and compensation of any victim, we need to be recognized as a crime victim. Let me read a couple of the federal acts, some of the federal acts here that really spells out what a crime victim, what the rights are of a crime victim. A crime victim has the right to be reasonably protected from the accused. Now, I know both as a law enforcement officer and in private security, I have had suspects track down where I live. I've had suspects follow me. I've had suspects, people that I've arrested, threaten to find out where I live and hurt me and my family. And you probably have too. But as a victim of crime, the federal law says we have a right to be reasonably protected. Protected by who? By law enforcement. We have a right to reasonable, accurate, and timely notice of any public court proceeding or any parole proceeding involving the crime of any release or escape of the accused. I was seriously injured many years ago in Connecticut, and the suspect who injured me was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Not only did the court have to notify me of when he was coming up for parole, but when he actually got out and where he was living. We have a right not to be excluded from any public court proceeding unless the court, after receiving clear and convincing evidence, determines the testimony by the victim would be materially altered. Under the law, number 6, we have the right to full and timely restitution as provided in the law. Private Officer International for many years has assisted to the best of our ability those members who have been victims when they contact us, because we don't go around contacting people and say, hey, I've heard you've been assaulted. Hey, I was wondering, have you been assaulted lately? There's no way for us to do that, but we have tried to assist those who have let us know. And we're going to do a better job because we're putting together right now a victims assistance program for private officers. And the way that we envision this program is really threefold, 3 different prongs of the program. Number one, we want to be able to assist members and non-members of getting the right assistance from the DA, law enforcement, the justice system. We want to make sure that they get the right direction as to how to handle their case and to make sure that they're kept advised of every aspect through the prosecution phase when an arrest has been made. Number 2, we want to make sure that person is compensated medically by workers' compensation or the employer and make sure that he's not out on the limb having to pay his own medical bills. Because when you get hurt on the job, when you get hurt as a direct link to your work, you're supposed to be compensated. Your bills are supposed to be paid by your employer, and in most states through workers' compensation, and we want to make sure that gets done. We also want to make sure that if you get hurt on the job to no fault of your own, just doing your job, that you are compensated while you're recuperating at home. Again, this is something generally handled by workers' compensation, but unfortunately not all employers carry it. So we're going to make sure that you get compensated justly and correctly while you're home recuperating. And third, we want to make sure that you get just compensation from the state. Most states have a victims compensation fund. We want to help you to recover what's coming to you as a victim of crime. There are a lot of things that the public, the media, and law enforcement don't know that happens to private officers, security personnel, private law enforcement all the time. And we need to step up. We need to make sure that the word gets out loud and clear that, hey, they're doing the job. They're on the front line every single day. There's not a day that goes by that a security officer or a private law enforcement person is not injured on the job. Not a day. In the last few years, we've noticed an influx of law enforcement officers suing the person who assaulted or injured them. We've noticed agencies stepping up and making sure that officers are being recognized as victims of crime, that they have all the due and same legal protections as any other citizen, that they are compensated according to the law financially for their medical bills, for their time out of work, and for just being a victim of crime. And I applaud every department and every agency that is beginning to fight back, to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, 220,000 times a year we're victims. We don't like that word victim, but we understand we must recognize that we've been victims, and so must the public. And now, Private Officer International is also stepping up, and we want you to know that we're going to make sure that the public, the media, law enforcement, the justice system understands that more than 100,000 times a year security officers are assaulted, injured, and more than 100 times a year they're killed in the line of duty. Many security officers don't know what their rights are. They don't know how to navigate the criminal justice system. Oftentimes, they're not even called to testify as the person who's assaulted or injured them. A lot of times, it's negotiated behind the scenes, and there's a plea bargain, and the victim, the security person, is left out of it completely. It's time that stops, because federal law says you have a right to know, you have a right to voice your concerns, your opinions, objections. You have a right to be part of that process in the legal system. A few years ago in Virginia, a security officer was badly beaten while protecting a transit authority property. And I'm not sure how it all went down. I know it was an unarmed position. I know that there was no two-way radio, and I know that he suffered quite a bit of injury. But the community came together, and they used social media. They used a fundraising platform to raise about $75,000, maybe more than that. Last time I saw it was around $75,000 for his injuries, for his compensation while he was recuperating, and that is just fantastic. And we need to do more of that as well across the country. We need to make sure that people understand what's out there, not to profit from what happened, not to get rich off from the injury or the assault, but definitely to be compensated. You don't understand that most security officers live paycheck to paycheck, week to week. Well, you do understand if you work in that industry, but many people don't. And so we want to work with social media platforms. And over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking to two of them about how we can regularly work with them to raise funds for those private officers injured in the line of duty. How can you get involved, you might say? How can you help to get the word out? How can you make this happen nationally? Well, I'm glad you asked, because there's three things I need for you to do. Number one, I need for you to get the word out via social media, via email, co-workers, and let them know what we're doing. Let them know about how being a victim of crime, there's certain rights, state and federal, that they need to take advantage of. I need for you to get the word out that we're here to help them navigate the system and help them to get what's justly theirs. Number two, I need for every person, not only listening, but every person that you know who works either proprietary or contract security, to report every assault and every injury to our office at helpdesk@privateofficer.com, helpdesk@privateofficer.com, so that we can not only track it, but we can also assist them in the process. The more statistics, the more numbers that we have when we present our case to various law enforcement, government, and different entities, the better it legitimizes what's going on. Because if we go in and we go, well, we know a lot of people are getting hurt, we know a lot of people are being injured on the job, we know security officers get the crap beat out of them every day, but I don't have any specifics, I don't have any case information for you, I don't have any news stories that I printed, I just know it happens. But that doesn't work. that's not good enough. And so when we're going at this, we need hard data. We need the facts. And that's another area that you can help us to obtain that information. And third, we need each and every one of you to become a member, a private officer, pay your dues, donate to the Memorial Fund, donate to our various projects. I don't care if it's $5, $500, or 50 cents, because as a business, we can't just automatically open up a lot of programs and staff them without being able to financially support those new projects. And so right now we're operating this new project on a wing and a prayer, hoping that somehow, some way along the way, we find the resources to financially be able to afford to support this project. So we need you to do those three things, and if you'll do those, if you'll get the word out, if you'll report to us when people are injured, security personnel, loss prevention, night security, when they're injured, when they're assaulted, it's going to help our statistics. And if you'll join POI, if you're not already a member, if you'll get others to join, if you'll support us financially, we'll be able to help you. You'll help us help you. And that's the bottom line. That's what it all boils down to, helping each other. Unfortunately, a lot of times people just think these things happen by themselves. They just think that companies, are rich and they finance themselves, but it doesn't work that way. So please get involved, do these three things. Over the next few weeks, if you are signed up to our news alerts, we will be telling you more about our new victim assistance programs, and we want you to be involved. We have a lot of things happening here at Private Officer International. This is just one of many, a number of new projects that we're working on, but be sure that you read over the Act, Crime Victims' Rights Act, both the federal law as well as the state, so that you can better understand it. And if you want to become part of what's happening here, send us an email at helpdeskprivateofficer.com, helpdeskprivateofficer.com, and we will be glad to direct you in the right direction, the right path, and help you to be actively involved. That's all. That's going to wrap up for this edition of the Private Officer Beat. We're glad that you've been with us. Make sure that you get the word out, and if you need more information, contact us, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Until the next time, God bless, be safe out there, and remember, we'll see you back here on the radio.